How's it going? My name's Jakeem Spradley. JT's much easier to pronounce. I'm gonna be giving my opinion on a couple things in regards to the genres of hip hop and rap and subgenres in between that atmosphere and its effect on Black Americans. The reason for this being is because I was in your same professor's class last year, HOM 497, Music and Politics, I believe that's what it was called. And at the end of the semester, I did a short presentation on blacks and racial slurs, specifically toward each other and how it's viewed versus others using it. And I used a few examples. One was Richard Pryor, and for the life of me, I can't remember the other one. Probably have to punch it in later. But seeing as now I'm in Professor Mingle? I used to stick to Cyril Mao. Seeing as now I'm in this class for HOM 300 DJ techniques and culture, sometimes hip hop comes up and he's asked to see if I wanted to share my opinion. Background about me: as of right now, time of this recording, I'm 27 years old. Born and raised from the country up to the town and to the city from Virginia. Did a couple years military before ended up here in Syracuse for my IT degree. So keep in mind, with all of that, I am no researcher, no professional in the social sciences field. I'm simply speaking from my opinion and thoughts on how things have changed and the influence between Black Americans, colored folk, etc., and the genres hip hop and rap that seem to be predominantly black. So what I got here, reading from the paper back and forth from the questions. This interview is for a class on subcultures where several of the students are interested in hip hop. Question number 1, your perspective. I know you listen to a lot of different music, not just hip hop, but what is your relationship to hip hop? Well, jumping away from the obvious answers, I create music. I've been creating music for over 10 years. I don't have a great catalog to see my progress or anything, but it has been something that I've enjoyed doing. It kept me out of trouble a lot, especially through my teen years. It's been one of those things that kept me grounded with artistic abilities. Another thing, getting more into the obvious, is the influence. As I said, hip hop is mostly blacks. So a lot of things that you see in the videos, music videos for hip hop, rap music, many of those things can come out to end up being trends between artists and brand clothing or the way they wear certain accessories. I think the biggest example I think of right now is back in 03. No, I was in high school. About 05 or 06, Cameron from Dipset, or Diplomats, was wearing pink and purple. So you had a bunch of cats walking around wearing the Pink Panther clothes. And during that time, we were all wearing tall tees. So I had some pink tall tees with the wristbands and the do-rag. And then it was the purple thing that died out at some point. I don't remember exactly when. It gets a little hazy between the Bapes or Baby Apes and going into the schmedium tees and the all whites and all black tees. Absolute. But that was a trend. So there was a lot of the black artists doing things, and I'll get to the sagging pants and stuff like that in a minute. But those things end up affecting what's considered social norms or taboo for me as a black male. Most of the genre of black. Okay, social norms, taboos. I spoke a little bit about that. Dress in specific. Sagging pants is one of those trends that it just needs to stop. I know there's probably a few of you right now that say, all right, I don't want to hear what this guy has to say. That's okay. For those that want to keep listening, there's no function to it. It's one of those things where you have to ask yourself why you're doing something. When I was in high school, the thing was Nike Air Force Ones or Huaraches, Timbs, And you had the academics, the LRG, and the Sean John. Nah, that was middle school. South Pole. Yeah, I can name brands the entire time, but those are social norms, and many times people would simply say, well, this is what a lot of people that I can most closely relate to are doing, so I'll lean more toward that, which I won't say is a bad thing all the time. You know, sometimes it helps you to go a little extreme to help you find yourself and reel you back in and find that happy medium. I get that, but what I will say is that it can be a negative thing if the social norms for you don't really have a positive function. They're not very positive for you as a person, for personal and maybe professional development coming into adult years, especially. You're not gonna look too right in the workplace with your pants hanging off your ass. I wasn't gonna be able to do that wearing a uniform. I stopped just a few years before going into uniform, but moving on. Slang. I wrote a blog post on this a couple months ago titled Attention Blacks, and I'm just short little story. I wrote it, I posted it on a military forum site called rallypoint.com. It's where veterans and military folk, we talk about a lot of things, and recruiters come up there. I posted that link. Only whites gave me feedback. Now I'm gonna go on a short tangent. I'm gonna pull up the blog post. Okay, so I got to pull it up. GoLiveLively.com/ if you're interested in it, 2016/12/13/ATTN-blacks. That's a lot. Just type in blacks in the search field and you can find it if you want. So going down the list, I put a list of a couple things. Fellas, stop sagging pants. Number 2. 2, why y'all don't wear more slacks. 3, etc. Number 4, the N-word is a word. Stop saying the word but getting mad when unauthorized non-blacks say it. When I say unauthorized, I mean, I remember there was always in the little cliques, the guys, and you had the one white guy, and many times he's comfortable saying that word in a certain group, but there may be somebody else in the group that ain't comfortable with him saying it, but they all made this collective effort or this collective decision. He can say it within a little group. You're putting all that effort in to realize that somebody's comfortable or okay to say that word. Reading on, the history is there and it is hate. It doesn't matter whether it's said with an ER or an AH or who says it. It's all or none with few exceptions, such as letting someone know what you're not. Take that however you like. Have you heard of hypocrisy? Again, I know there's plenty of leeway for someone to say, I don't agree with none of that. That's way too extreme. This where take as you want with it. It is socially acceptable for blacks to use racial slurs. Much more acceptable for blacks to do it than whites. I'm not sure if I want to speak this into existence. So I'll see if I can be careful about how I say this. But I'll pose this as a question. If you're sitting back in a classroom or anywhere else for that matter, and you see a black male or black female call someone white the N-word, how do you expect that person to respond? 1, you had no business saying it in the first place. It's a racial slur, it's a word that makes people uncomfortable. 2, what do you say if that person comes back and says, actually, I'm not an N-word, I am a human being, or I am whatever it is that they want to identify as first and foremost, white male, white female, or professor of this study, and CEO, etc. What do you do then? You know, why use a word that you only want specific people to say and not others? That's more of a question. You already know my bias, so I can keep going with that. Going on with the relationship to hip hop. This thing about standards for how black men should be in specific. You can always find memes on the internet. The mass media does plenty to influence this image of, and along with mainstream artists, bang all these chicks, do as I please, not gonna be the best father. I'll pay the child support. That doesn't make you a father. It could be a biological father that pays child support, but overall that doesn't simply make you a father. I know, more wiggle room, right? Because you can say, well, what if there's this situation between the dad and the mom. I'm gonna leave it at just because you're the biological father and you're paying child support, that does not simply mean you are a father. Moving on. Many music kind of just pushes on that. You know, money, sex, drugs. You got all these gals in the club, okay? All right, but you're not. There's not too much being pushed by mass media about a good family, taking care of your family, taking care of your own. It's not considered it's a more pushed away part of the social norms. So plenty of that's word salad, I'm sure. Take what you can from that tangent. Now, question 2. Let's see. I wonder if there even is a subculture of hip hop in recent decades. Me, for example, I don't understand hip hop. I don't know a lot about the music and the culture around it, so I am definitely not part of the hip hop subculture. I guess you could call me an outsider. I don't even know people who I think would be part of the hip hop subculture, and those few people who might be able to tell me more about hip hop don't usually talk to them about hip hop. According to your experience, who is an insider of hip hop? Primarily interested in listeners, consumers, fans, and not super well-known rappers and producers. Okay, so I'll start with this. Those are insiders, depending on the level of influence, immersion, and understanding they have from it. Well, there's another subpart. Let's go with that. Are there perhaps different groups of hip-hop insiders? That's a very technical question that I don't have too much on, but here's what I can say. If you take hip-hop as the culture, then I would say you can branch down into the b-boys, the breakdancing, the scenes of that, the lyricists, the KRS ones, the Rakim, and I'm forgetting someone, and it's gonna kill me later. I'm forgetting someone. The KRS one, at least I can remember that one. People who are trying to open people's eyes to what's going on. You can easily just say the Tupac. You can always push him up there, even though you may not like his image. I've said plenty of things that would tell you I wasn't a big fan of simply his appearance, but that doesn't take away what he said and what he stood for, what he was trying to do. Gotta level that seesaw a little bit. There's also producers sampling older songs. That is an art that, done right, I think shows a lot of homage to those that came before. If you can make something that makes people listen and go, oh, this sounds really good. What is the original of this? I think it's not too recent, but I think a few years ago, Chris Brown came out with a track called You Have to Show Me. Show Me. I think that's what it's called, Show Me. And that is a loose. The melody is about the same, but that's based on another track. I'm gonna pull it up real quick because I can truncate time that I'm wasting looking for it. Okay, Show Me Love by Steve Angelo and Laidback Luke. That is not the name. Robin S. That is her name. Can I get her last name too? No, I can't. Robin S. Show Me Love. There was a remix done by Steve Angelo on the album 2-in-1. That's not important. But that was a remix. It didn't show the most homage because you didn't hear the sample, but that is an example of taking something and revamping it into the current sound, especially with that hard thumping 808, 909 going on. And then you got the gear, something that goes straight for embracing the black community and trying to negate the crabs in the bucket mentality. FUBU being the classic example. I don't know too much about their past or history other than the Forest About Us. They didn't have the best quality of some of their things. In fact, you can go on Amazon and look at one of the shoes and it's about $40. Nothing but bad reviews because it's bad quality. But that's the best answer I would give you in regards to different groups of hip-hop insiders. If we broaden it into hip-hop rap, then of course I would say yes. Rap is more of a vocalist style, not simply a genre. You can sing and rap on many genres, though some would sound pretty odd. Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit, if you remember WWF back in the day, Keep Rolling, that was rapping. So they rap, but those tracks weren't considered hip-hop and rap. Also, you got rappers that sing on songs with auto-tune or clever EQing. I'm talking to you, Drake. But it wasn't always called R&B. You know, what are you gonna call T-Pain? What are you gonna call his early stuff? Well, the T-Pain stuff, not what he was his legit rapping or rapping as is. Staying with hip hop, it may be more objective than I'll say, but hip hop and black community and our social norms aren't one and the same. Simply closely connected. To me, hip hop is a genre that's uplifting, about rising from the dirt and into inequality, learning and better understanding your origins and how to apply that to improve yourself in the community, your consciousness, and embracing your struggles. Money, sex, and drugs ain't doing that. You know, it's good to have some money. It's good to have a little bit of rump rolling going on, and drugs. You know, some play here and there, but that to be pushing that out on a massive scale, more than anything that talks about what I consider hip hop. You know, songs that you can listen to that make you sit back and go, all right, should really think about this. You know, while you're memorizing the lyrics, you start questioning what you're actually saying and questioning what's being questioned. You start thinking outside the box and really start thinking about things that kind of open your mind up to things going on around you from a different perspective or point of view. That's what I consider hip hop. A lot of the mass media, the music that's pushed out mass media and branded as hip hop and rap, it's dumbing people down. You know, the money, sex, and drugs, pushing that all the time. It's not. To me, that's not hip hop. To me, that's not music for the black community. It's not music for my daughter when I want her to listen to something that embraces who she is and where she came from. You know, this stuff is watering down the black community, if anything. Because another tangent, people want a sense of community, right? So I talked about, there's probably somebody listening to this right now with the pants hanging off their ass. That's your business. I don't like it. That's your business. You know, the hell with me, right? So there's a reason for that. Part of the community, it's part of the social norms. It doesn't affect the taboos. And black community has embraced mass media push rap music as social norms. You know, the racial slurs and dress in certain ways. You know, that's something where you see something enough times that people start doing it. It becomes a trend. You want to be part of that accepted part. And I can go into this. It takes a lot of courage, self-esteem, and confidence to be able to look away from the trends. All right, it's not always easy for someone to simply say, well, everyone is doing this, most people are doing this, this is what or there's always this is what I was brought up around, this is what I'm used to doing. It's difficult for people to have that mindset about something and then look the other way and try something else. I wear slacks and V-necks, and I think they call them the golfer hats on a regular basis. And I stand out like a sore thumb doing that. But I ain't worn no jeans and I don't know how long. Definitely ain't worn nothing hanging off my ass since, on purpose anyway, since about 16, 17 years old. You get weird looks for that. People look at you funny when you do things like that. You know, it's something that you gotta be comfortable in your skin and what you're trying to represent and who you are and what you're trying to become and trying to find yourself. You know, tell somebody, go home and look at the clothes you have and ask yourself, do you really like the way this stuff looks? Why? Silly questions, right? Figure out what do you think you would like simply because you like it. Look at your clothes and ask yourself, well, how much of this do I really like versus seem to be impressive for someone somewhere. So the social norms thing, that applies. I'm really doing, and I'm, like I said, doing my best with some of these questions. It kind of seems so generic for me, especially as for someone that's not a professional, just speaking more from experience. Part B, if there are hip-hop insiders, where do they meet and how do they communicate these days? Social media, meetups and groups. That's communities all have lots of different ways to keep in contact. In social media, you got your Facebook groups. On Twitter, you got your hashtags. that help you. You know, if you follow a hashtag, you can find people for the same cause. Meetups, what I think it's called meetup.com. You know, it's one of those ways where you can quickly find a group where everyone has the same interests. Here on campus, you have the student activities, student organizations, groups, depending on what's going on. You go to a party, etc. You know, that's the best answer I give to that. Hip Hop Insiders. If I'm gonna delve deeper, maybe I would say you get in your YouTube playlist and you start pushing around, seeing what you find through there. Maybe some people go on their IRC channels or internet relay chat channels and find more specific groups. I've met a couple other musicians in a couple IRC channels, but generally people don't even know what that is. They consider Slack to be, many people consider Slack to be one of the first. You know, and they forget about AOL and AIM. Let me get this. Final question, the main part of it, is gangster rap. As far as I understand, there are at least two different things. A tradition inside of hip hop that began in the 1980s and was commercially successful in the 1990s. Apparently that is sometimes called gangster rap. I don't know if this tradition lives on until today. B, recently I watched a documentary on Trap from Atlanta where the protagonists, like the Migos and 21 Savage, seem to be very careful to represent themselves in a way that emphasized their tough background either in gangster, drug, milieu, I don't know what that word is, or in close proximity to it. That example shows me that the motif of the gangster in the drug world is still around today, even if today's hip hop sounds quite different from classic gangster rap. Okay, I'd argue that hip hop is a quieter subgenre of rap music compared to gangster rap. If that's trying to find a way to, if you're trying to categorize all of these, it's good luck. I have my opinion on what hip hop is, but there's a reason why you buy a song off iTunes, it says hip hop / rap. You just bulk it in together many times. Now, gangster rap it's more about the topic, and I would say hip hop is, again, it's about a mood or a goal. They can kind of bleed into each other. So you can talk about hard knocks, but trying to find a way to rise above it, which would be positive, just as much as you can get a dance beat about that 100 BPM, some of that break beat, and be talking about some Doug stuff. So there's still bleed over into that. Now, the gangster rap image sells because many people are interested in that culture. It's a thing. People are interested in it. In the streets, your reputation precedes you many times. Anywhere, your reputation precedes you. If people know your name, especially in 2017, and they can look you up and see what comes up, they can get an impression of you. So in order to solidify that reputation, consistency matters because it tells your story for you. You know, it rolls out the carpet for you. It kind of warps your future in certain ways that you may not really pay much attention to until you start. What I did a couple times is I went around and asked people in certain workplaces, how did you first perceive me? And that kind of helped me understand some of the situations I was dealing with. But that's kind of anywhere though. I don't think that's more of just because of being in the streets. Yeah, if you're dealing with hard knocks, the gangster drug light in the streets, you need to, I would say you would need to have some type of consistency that says, hey, I'm serious about mine. That needs to be known. That can't be questioned, because then people are gonna try you. That's as deep as I can get into that one. Part A question: what are the associations with the gangster motif in hip hop? I would think that violence, sometimes against women, money, and drugs play a role here, but I might well be getting it wrong, or maybe I overlook other things. No, you're not overlooking things. It's what sells, and right now what's being pushed the most in mass media for the hip-hop rap categorization of music is money, sex, drugs, and violence. That's there, you know. And then there's the alpha male crabs in the bucket. You know, hey, I'm gonna get mine. I ain't worrying about you. I'm worrying about me and mine and what I gotta do to get it. That's the thing that gets pushed a lot. And in American society, it's rewarded outwardly. It's externally recognized to a much higher extent than those that say, let's make something happen. Let's see how we can work together, come together for a positive cause that can create positive change. You always got that one person that wants to take it way too far, and got that extremist that takes it to the extreme. I wrote about this in another blog post, talking about extremist feminists and extremist Black Lives Matter. You running around talking about we need to kill whites in the street. Who gonna do that? Who doing that? Who gonna do that just for the hell of it? Just because we need to show that Black Lives Matter? What? I'm gonna reel back. Same thing with the feminists, with the extremist feminists, by the way. If you're gonna quote what I said about feminists, make sure you remember that term extremists in line with that. Oh, we gotta get rid of all these men, put them on an island. We can do much better on our own. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna go into that one. There's also the politicking, the balance of helping others while defending home and family. That goes back into the alpha male and crabs in the bucket, and the community aspect, the lack of role models or examples. We do better to emulate. That doesn't get pushed out there too often. See someone doing good. Many times if they do something positive, they want to put it on Facebook with a selfie. Just, if you're gonna do good, do it for the right reason. No, it doesn't really look right. You taking a picture of you handing money or a Happy Meal to a homeless man on the street so you can blast his face all over Facebook and Twitter. What's wrong with you? People, again, going back to the community aspect, people look for people to emulate. You look for people to figure out what to take from and what to leave. You always do that. That's the thing when you're coming up and you're dealing with leaders, going into school, dealing with other people. You try to figure out, this person is doing this. What do I want to take from that? What do I want to leave behind? And the harder that is, the more far out you may have to go to find that, so that you can better solidify your grouping of what you're looking, or where you're looking to go, your direction. If I came from a broken home, so learning what it was to be a man, in order to do that, instead of asking a father that I never had, what I had to do, what I did instead was I would look at what my mom was doing to take care of the family, take care of me, and what she had dealt with, and then I would go out and see how other families are doing things, other men, older men, 10, 15 plus years older, how they're doing things, and then peers and people the same age as me, how they seem to act with their, because of their families, having a father figure. That was how I had to play catch up, because otherwise it was just me trying to figure out what am I, what do I want to be. Again, there's another thing of going against social norms. If you don't see a lot of black fathers, then when you have an issue, if you are a black or to be black father, or you're anywhere near the age of being capable of becoming a black father, then you have to actively search to find someone to talk to about those situations and understand the why. That's one of the issues with the parents don't understand. It's not that they don't understand, it's simply that what they don't understand is that it's important to share the why, not just the what. That's people in general. Don't tell somebody don't do that because I said so. Come on now. That works for certain people and at a certain time, but after a certain while, that person's gonna want to know why. Now, how that person figures out why, I'm not gonna entertain, but the person's gonna want to know why. They're gonna want to know that, because that helps them understand what's going on and the decisions that they made in retrospect. Let's see, part B. Why is or was the figure of the gangster with all its associations so important? And I'm interested in hearing not so much in what outsiders of hip-hop think, but rather how hip-hop insiders make sense of this motif. Perhaps you could tell us both what you think and personally Perhaps you could tell us both what you think personally and what, according to your experience, our hip-hop insiders tend to think. Well, the figure is important because of the mass, it's important because of the mass media exposure. If you push something out in front of someone's face and it's somewhat related to a person, they're gonna look to figure out how or should they bridge that gap between that, you know. If they don't see anything else, then now they have to do some questioning on their own, because that goes back to the community aspect. Now, it's hard to be different. It can be hard to go against the social norms and to be that guy that sticks out like a sore thumb, depending on who you are personally and, you know, mentally, emotionally, how you deal with things. It takes a lot of confidence to deal with those things. So people are doing things based on that gangster rap image, gangster rapper figure. Then if it's not related to money, sex, and drugs, now you got to find somewhere else to get that information. So that was all I could give you. These questions are very technical, and I think that a lot of what I said was word soup. So I hope you get something out of it. Again, it's JT, and you got questions, you can always ask the professor for my email, or you can write it down, jtspratly@golivelively.com. You can email me anytime. I'm always up for a good discussion, conversation that I can learn from, and I hope you learn something. Take care.